decisions that we make. Tonight I want to talk about what's in store for Georgia. And Metro Atlanta obviously is a part of that conversation. And representing Fulton County and Clayton County, the cities include Hayfield, College Park, East Point, and portions of the city of Atlanta. I'm very proud to announce that Hartsfield-Jackson is in District 60. So I think that's a major component. With the recent expansion of the international terminal, I see opportunity for us as small business owners. Now, how does that happen? A couple of things I want to highlight for you to talk about where I see the small business community benefiting from that. I keep mentioning small business administration because I spent a couple of years there writing small business loans. So I think I know something about the needs of small business communities in terms of the larger ones as well as some of the smaller ones. And there are some incentives and credits that I want to talk about tonight. You mentioned earlier the birthday tax. I think many of us are very excited about that recent legislation. I think that was HB 386, which was tax reform, which eliminated the allure of constantly having to pay that. But if you look at that legislation, depending upon the year that you bought your vehicle, you may not benefit from that. Also, last year, HB 868 gave some major increases in tax incentives to the business community. Many of you may be familiar with the mega tax credit, and I'll explain that. The easiest way I think to explain that mega tax credit is this. If you create 2,000 jobs and invest $500 million, you're instantly eligible for about $52 million in tax credits. You can't get that anywhere in the country. So I'm extremely excited to talk about those types of projects. Now, as small businesses, how would you benefit? Well, there are all types of ways you can benefit. When you have businesses like Porsche, located in District 60 that relocates to the state of Georgia, based upon those incentives that they've attracted these corporations, you instantly benefit through marketing opportunities, through home ownership opportunities, if we're in the real estate business. So I believe that there's a trickle-down effect that we can benefit from when you see Caterpillar, Baxter, corporations that are coming here. So I see us going up. The other thing I think we need to talk about is the fact that we can't legislate morality. Recently, you've seen us start to sell alcohol on Sundays. I think that's a win-win for the state of Georgia. And certainly those individuals, when they break the law, we have provisions for them as well. But more importantly, I think that when we start to look at the direction that we want to go in terms of where we want to go, I see some opportunities that I think we've missed. This argument is very controversial because I have proposed some legislation for light rail. It is my belief that you should be able to get on a train in Metro Atlanta and go to Savannah in 2 hours. I believe that. In the state of California, which I lived out there for many years, you could actually hop on a train and go all the way to the other end of Southern California in a matter of hours. And that's unheard of in the state of Georgia. I am an emergency manager by trade. I've spent a couple of weeks on the road working up in New York City with Hurricane Sandy. And one of the things that I specifically wanted to talk to you tonight about is where we live. For many years, I spent time wanting to live in Washington, D.C., thinking that New York City had it all, thinking that L.A. had it all. And after spending some time in all of these areas, I realized we have something very special. We have a low cost of living. We have moderate weather, and through our airport, we have access to the world. So my thought is, why aren't we marketing that? I actually was driving from Manhattan to Far Rockaway, and it took me 2.5 hours to do that every day. And I realized I don't do that in Atlanta. When I thought about the weather, it was actually colder here than it was there, which is weird. But at any rate, needless to say, the cost of living, I couldn't believe that to have dinner in Manhattan, the bill was over $100, but here there's still wonderful, trendy, great spots you can go to and enjoy yourself. So my point is simply this. We have an opportunity as the small business community to set ourselves aside. We can be the world-class international city that we talk about and actually compete with places like New York City, places like Washington, D.C., places like Los Angeles. And I think we do that through light rail. I think we do that through these tax incentives that the brochure that I brought highlights, and there's some ones in there that I'm going to highlight a little bit later. And more importantly, the last thing I want to talk about is there's a lot of focus now on entertainment districts. One of the things that I find amazing about New York is it never goes to sleep. Many of you may recall we changed our hours back to 2 p.m. a couple of years ago. And clearly it has not affected our crime. It has not impacted our DUI rates. And certainly I'm not critical of the previous administration, but I think we have a unique opportunity to redefine ourselves in terms of where we want to go. And I believe through entertainment districts, some people say casino is the way to go. I like it, many don't. But ultimately, I think it's up to constituents in the small business community, the private sector community, the corporate community to drive that conversation. I don't believe that capital will drive that. I just don't. And so I'm simply yielding to you tonight to come together for us to sit down to look at some creative ways in which we can attract businesses and international corporations here to Atlanta as well as the state of Georgia. It is very clear that if Atlanta is healthy, our state is healthy. Now, there's a lot of conversation about a Falcon Stadium. A lot of conversation about that. That vote's going to come very soon. Personally, I love the idea. Because my thought is that we can attract more people into the city, and we can sell more tickets, put more people in the door, that benefits you again as a small business community. The healthier Atlanta is, the more opportunities I think it provides for our community. And so those are some of the things that are on my mind. There are 3 pieces of legislation that I have put forward, that I've introduced, that I want to mention to you before I go, and that is HB 38. This bill provides free tuition for the children of fallen police officers and firefighters. You may recall that the 2 gentlemen were in a helicopter crash for the Atlanta Police Department. One of those was my classmate. And so my thought is, for those individuals who made the ultimate sacrifice, what better way can we reward their children by making sure that there's no burden with the cost of a college education? The third thing is in bullying. There's a lot of conversation surrounding bullying with the recent events in Newtown. And all of us wanted to immediately go out and ban guns. But in reality, we know that that's not going to resolve that issue. And many of us like our guns. I like my guns. But more importantly, the issue that we must address is mental health. And I think it's important that we start putting more funding back into those coffers, because we're paying the price by not doing so on a national level. When you look at the recent events that have happened nationwide, I think there are about 14 recently, the weapons that were used were legally obtained. And so it's important that we start to recognize real issues in terms of mental health funding, in terms of that being necessary. So we're looking at legislation as well to bring some federal dollars to our state to kind of balance that with matching funds, so that won't be passed on to you. And then finally, the last piece of legislation is light rail. The city of Forest Park has brought some Swiss and German entrepreneurs here to the state who wish to fund light rail 100% privately funded. And I'm excited about that legislation that you will see come in the weeks to come. So those are some things that are on my mind in terms of how does Atlanta redefine itself, what direction we want to go in. I believe light rail will be the future. I believe entertainment districts are the future. I certainly think the thought of bringing a new stadium here, I know there's a lot of conversation about the fact that it's not new, and we can go back and forth. But ultimately, the health of Atlanta, I believe, determines the health of the state of Georgia. And I certainly think that we do that through tourism dollars and through those other opportunities. Is there any questions that I can answer in terms of any legislation that may be pending down at the Capitol right now? Any questions on that?
What's the best way we can help you push the legislation you mentioned?
Absolutely. By lobbying your individual members on the House side as well as the Senate side. That's probably the best way to do that. I want to speak to the supermajority. I think you mentioned that earlier. I don't know if you guys are aware of the fact that this particular year is very unique, unlike any other year. When we take a vote down under the dome this year, we won't be able to stop any legislation. And when I say we, I'm generally referring to Democrats. But needless to say, right now on the House side, the Republicans have a supermajority, meaning you need 91 votes to pass legislation, and they have that 91 votes based upon the elections here that took place in 2012. On the Senate side, they also have a supermajority. We were not able to stop that. So harmful legislation coming through now will be very difficult. So it's really going to be up to individual constituents to lobby your various representatives at home and say, this legislation may be harmful to the small business community. This legislation may be harmful to the LGBT community, and so forth. So it's going to be critical. The constituents, I think, and the consumers will play a major role in terms of lobbying their individuals. And you know, here's the reality. If your representative isn't serving you, send them home. And I think you saw that happen on a to mind the recent decision from the Supreme Court to hear the issue of marriage equality. I simply wanted to bring that up and talk about the fact that we're living history right now in our lifetimes. I never thought that would happen. I just turned 40. And so I want you to think about the fact that we're on the cusp of breaking something amazing. I believe in the next 5 years you will see marriage equality nationwide, in addition to the state of Georgia. And I think that that happens based upon these small conversations, based upon these small groups, and based upon the fact that there must be individuals who are willing to stand out and proud. And so I love the fact that there are young women and young men that can look to us and say that regardless of what your sexuality is, regardless of where you live, that there are opportunities that stand for you. And so I am proud to be a part of this community. I am proud to say that I am an out and proud person and to represent you under the House of Representatives. I don't have all the answers. I don't. But I can assure you that every single day we will be working to promote fairness, to promote equality, and to promote a better life for everyone in the state of Georgia. I thank you. I am flattered and humbled to be with you tonight, and I look forward to working with you in the years to come.